There's one very key thing you need to know before buying an electric scooter. And I'm going to talk in detail about why this is the feature that very few YouTubers are talking about, very few reviews are talking about, but they should be. It's honestly people that don't fully understand batteries, they don't fully understand battery chemistry, they don't fully understand what you need to know before you buy anything with a battery inside it. Now first, reviews. So aside from my review here, you probably need to know what other people are saying. There is currently 94 reviews on YouTube for the Segway e-kick scooter ZT3 Pro with an average score of 4.5. That's actually pretty good because you got to remember some people they're going to have problems. Most people aren't. The big takeaway from reviews that I've read is that people are saying this is incredible quality. And I've got to say, I found exactly the same thing. Segway sent me an electric scooter, the ZT3 Pro, and to be honest, I was thinking to myself, what's the most efficient form of transport in the world? I think this might be it. I think it might be even more efficient than my electric skateboard. And let's be real about it, an electric car is amazingly efficient in comparison to a gasoline, petrol, diesel-powered car. But it's got nothing on this form of transportation. If you want the absolute best outcome for the planet, it's actually not a bicycle. Remember, you fart. We all fart, right? We all use energy. An electric scooter, if you can power this using your solar panels, this is the most efficient form of transport anywhere in the world. There is nothing, in my opinion, that is as efficient as this is. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to have you with us. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. And I want to say thank you to our members. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'll put a link in the description to our member page. Hey guys, I've tried to connect the scooter and it somehow locked itself and I can't get it to unlock itself. So I read online that you can take the handlebars off, disconnect the cables, and that might solve the problem. So let's see if that works. Hey guys, I've just ridden the scooter until the battery died. It did 37 kilometers and I'm pretty heavy. I weigh about 210, 215 pounds. Most of that riding was on the flat. Really what surprised me was how good the comfort was, because on a lot of my trip there was concrete ruts in the road and it was a bit bumpy. A lot of bumps on a lot of the road here. Now I'm in Stockton here, it's very flat, but yeah, rough roads. So the front suspension and the rear suspension made it actually super comfortable. So even though I've ridden 37 kilometers, I feel like it was just super easy ride. Really, really nice temperatures today, mild temperatures. That might have helped with range a little bit, I'm not too sure, but 37 kilometers, so it's about 23 miles. Other things about performance. Unfortunately, it only goes to 25 kilometers an hour, but it's got plenty of power. So even with my heavy weight, I can get up steep hills if I try. There's only one hill that I did, one little hill, and I wanted to test it, and up that hill it was like super powerful. My 210, 215 pounds is no problem at all. It's got a digital screen, you can see how fast you're going. You've got a light on the front. It's got this kind of cool looking X light here. That stays on all the time. That's like a daytime running light. Charging. I'm going to charge it now, but when I charged it before, it took around just under 4 hours to charge from almost about 5% up to 100%. So that's about how long it's going to take. Now, I'm going to use my solar panels to charge it. Sunny still. I'll plug it into my solar and it should charge in, a bit less than 4 hours, I think, which is good charging speed. Other than that, it's got pneumatic tires. So the tires make it more comfortable as well. Plus, you can ride them over even stuff like gravel and sand. They're good on gravel and sand. Having those big knobbly sections, they don't get flats. So that's a big benefit. I have gotten a flat before when I'm out riding. Has a good light on the front, an actual proper light. You can actually press this button on here and that turns the light on for you. Brakes, pretty big brakes. So fortunately it's got, let's turn it around. So pretty decent sized disc brakes on the front and on the rear. Now this thing here enables you to fold the scooter. So if you want to fold it down, you just You guys can edit this out. There you go. You just pull that up like that. Push that down. Then that goes into there. That clicks into there, like that. So that's going to make it a lot easier to carry it, to sit it in your car, to kind of get it to where you need it to go. Honestly, I can't think of a cheaper form of transport. This has cost me, obviously I power it with solar, so for me the electricity is totally free. And I can't think of a cheaper way to get around. So if you've lost your license or you've got to get to work and it's within, say, 30 kilometers to get to work, you'd probably beat the traffic in most cities riding one of these. It's way cheaper than running an EV or a car, petrol-powered car, even a motorbike. So I'm a big fan. And as I said before, about 37 kilometers of range. When you get to work, you could charge it up again. So then you could, even if you had to commute a long way, you can still do that. Overall, I do think, for me personally, the construction is really sturdy. It feels like it handles my weight really well. The turning is good. What is some things that could potentially be improved? Well, I'm not a big fan of the 25 kilometer an hour limit. I prefer to be able to go a bit faster than that. So if there was a button to be able to remove that speed limiter, I'd be for it.
The Segway ZT3 Pro. Segway sent me one of these. And honestly, it was a little bit bigger than what I expected it to be. When I grabbed it out of the box, I put it together. In fact, my son Jack put it together. It was so easy to put together. He's 11 years old. So yeah, all you've got to do is put the handle on, and you put in some, you basically screw in some little Allen key screws. There's about 4 of them, and that's it, you're ready to go. Now I have to admit, I did have one problem, which was it locked itself on me. Maybe I did it. I think I must have accidentally locked it somehow while I was riding it. And yeah, it took me a while to figure out how to unlock it. I actually had to pull off the handlebar and pull apart the plug for 2 minutes, and then I plugged it back in and it was all okay again. But that was a little bit frustrating. Other than that, this was way better than any other electric scooters that I've tested. My dad has an older model of the Segway electric scooter, the model below this, and I spoke to him on the phone about his scooter. He absolutely loves it. This one is definitely better than that. His one has a suspension on the rear only. This one has dual suspension. So for me, weighing about 215 pounds, that was good. Sometimes I find that riding a scooter for a long distance is uncomfortable, but riding this for about, I think it was about 37, 38 kilometers, so probably 23 miles, around about that, that's how long it lasted before the battery died. So it went really, really well. I was actually quite surprised. Specifications. It's meant to be able to do 70 kilometers of range in eco mode. I did not ride it in eco mode. Eco mode is never my thing. Sorry guys, that's just not me. If you put it in sport mode, it's 50 kilometers. So I didn't get quite 50 kilometers. I think I got about 38 kilometers. There's still a fair bit of range. And I'm guessing that 50 kilometers isn't tested with a 215 pound person. It's probably more like, 150 pounds. I weigh a lot more than that. So what else is it capable of doing? Well, it can go up a 25% gradient. I've never actually I don't think I've ever been up anything more than a 25% gradient on a road. I've never seen a road steeper than 25%. The steepest that I've ridden is about 24% on my bicycle. I used to do road racing, and I rode up every hill I could find. I searched out all the steepest hills that I could find everywhere I would go traveling around, and the steepest I ever found was about 25%. So this can get up 25%. I've not tested it on that though. I've only tested it on maybe a 12% gradient, and it was no problem. Speaking of no problems in terms of power, how much power does it have? Its nominal power is 650 watts, but max power is 1,600 watts. So it's not super powerful, but that's enough power for me at my weight, and I think for most people that would be more than enough power. The battery size, it's interesting battery size. It's a 600 watt hour battery. So that's about the same size battery as what's in my electric bike, my Merida E160. my dual suspension electric bike. So I think the efficiency is really good because if you think about it, when I'm riding my electric bicycle, I get about this much range, putting it in boost mode, but I'm actually pedaling. So this battery is actually slightly smaller than that battery. That battery, I think, is a 640 watt hour size battery. So that battery is about 10% or 5 to 10% bigger. And I'm getting about the same range from that bike, even though I'm pedaling it. So I think the efficiency of this scooter is really, really good. The battery voltage nominal voltage is 46.8 volts. Now, the big difference between this electric scooter and others is not all the stuff I've just mentioned. It's actually the battery management system. How long will your battery in your scooter last? I've had a few scooters, the batteries have died much earlier than what I would have hoped from things like water. Fortunately, water is pretty strongly water resistant. It's not completely waterproof, but if you're riding in light rain, that wouldn't be a problem. And that's for me been a problem in the past. So sealing the battery, apparently the battery is basically completely sealed and almost impossible for water to get in it. That's a huge pro. But the battery management system, getting back to that, if you put this on charge, it doesn't matter if you leave it on for a little longer than you should. It'll charge in around 4 hours, but if you leave it on longer than that, the battery management system will have no issues with that. Now, some previous scooters I've owned, the battery management system is not very good and it'll just keep trying to charge the battery even though it's fully charged. That's bad for your battery. That sucks. Right? You've got to set a timer and you're not always going to get that right. No one is perfect with timers. We all live life, we work, we've got kids, you got to go to school, whatever it may be. So having to time it to not wreck your battery sucks. The battery management system in this, when I was speaking to Segway at the electric car show in Sydney, they said that's one of the big improvements to this. It also is able to keep the battery at a good temperature. Most scooters don't have a proper battery management system. Therefore, people complain. They say lithium batteries suck. All these batteries are crap because of that key issue. Like the Nissan Leaf, the original ones, didn't have proper battery management. And then batteries would degrade quickly. That's the other key here, guys. You don't want to have a scooter where you bought this scooter, and in Australia this is on sale right now for $1,600. That's Australian dollars, so that's about $1,000 US dollars. In the US, they're about that price, about $1,200 US dollars. You don't want to pay that money, and then in a year's time, your battery only has 80%, 70% capacity. 2 years' time, it might have 40, 50, 60%. You don't want that, and I think that's the big advantage here. You got to get more charge cycles and more life. In other words, even though you're paying more than rivals, and Segway have been criticized, they say that people say the prices are too expensive. But here's the thing, you are paying for something with quality that's going to last longer. If the battery management system protects the battery, meaning your scooter is going to get twice as many charges, or maybe more than that, versus another cheaper scooter, then actually the price is actually closer to half of what the other rival is, because that scooter might actually wear out faster. And I found that to be true. I've had a few Xiaomi scooters, to be honest, I've had that problem. I've had the problem where if I rode them too much within 12 months, or if I didn't pull them off charge quickly, the batteries degraded. And a couple of them, in fact, they just died. And I took the scooter back to the shop after I think it was about 12, 14 months. They said it's out of warranty. It's not even worth trying to fix it. It's too expensive to fix it. Just buy a new one. You don't want to have to do that, right? So that's a big advantage with this. Dual suspension is another big advantage. That dual suspension means that this thing feels like an armchair, a lounge chair, in comparison to some other scooters I've had where you go over the little expansion joints in the concrete. They're constant. They're everywhere on footpaths, and you boom, 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 boom. Really uncomfortable. With the dual suspension and the large pneumatic air tires, I didn't have that issue at all. What else does this have? Indicators. Indicators are awesome. I've tried indicating on other scooters that don't have indicators by putting my arm out and you're trying to ride with one hand. It's not great, right? And people are like, what are you doing? Are you waving, or are you turning, or what? So indicators, they're a big bonus. Dual disc brakes are a great idea as well. And they're pretty big disc brakes, and I felt like there was no problem with stopping me pretty quickly. It's got another thing, and this is probably the best thing a scooter can have at the moment, in my opinion. It has Apple Find My. So my dad's scooter was stolen. He had a Segway, and he actually bought another Segway, but his original one was stolen last year. He came up to visit us here in Newcastle. Actually, he was helping out because Shanna was doing cancer treatments, and still is, and I'd broken my foot in 3 places. And so he came up here, drove all the way from Melbourne with his caravan to help us. which is really nice of me. They stayed for about 2 weeks to help us while I had to lay in bed and have my leg up. Just every minute of the day I had to have my leg up. He helped us, and then someone comes along and stole his scooter. Now, unfortunately, that model that he had didn't have Apple Find My. If it had have had that, we could have found these guys and gotten his scooter back and gotten these guys in trouble with the police. Anyhow, that's one big benefit. What about weight? It weighs 29.7 kilograms. Now, for me, I go to the gym, 5 days a week, no problems. If you're like a smaller person, say a smaller female, 30 kilograms, that's about 64 pounds, something like that. 65 pounds, I think, about 67 pounds actually, then that could be a little heavy for you. So that's something you need to take into consideration. If you need to load it into your car, you can load it into your car. It can pretty easily fold over. But yeah, if you're a really small person, then that's going to be a fair bit of weight for you to carry. It's not any heavier than, other things. I've got an electric bicycle that weighs more than that, but it's just worth keeping that in mind. Now, Segway actually sent me a helmet which has a light built into the back of it. It's called the Smart Urban Helmet, and they're about 170 Australian dollars. You can get them, I think, cheaper some places, so about 110 US dollars. Good feature to have a light in the back of the helmet. So you can have a light on the back of your head, and cars are much more likely to see you. I highly recommend getting something like that to try and be as visible as you possibly can. There is also a brake light. There is also a front light. You can buy a basket for the front of this. You can buy sort of like a little carry-on suitcasey type thing that sits on the back of the scooter. It has Bluetooth connection, but I did find one thing to be a pain in the backside, and I think Segway should change it. My dad thinks this as well. To start the scooter, you have to get it connected via Bluetooth to the app, the Segway app. So when you actually turn this thing on, it won't, but you basically can't ride it until you download the app. You connect to the app, and I found it difficult personally to connect to the app. The scooter didn't want to connect to the app, and I spent probably 45 minutes trying to connect to the app. Bit of a pain in the butt. I think that would be an easy thing for Segway to change, and I have seen other people say that as well. Maybe just provide better instructions. The instructions in the box didn't really explain to me in an easy way how to do this. They did have a QR code, and I was meant to scan the QR code. Scanning the QR code took me to some totally random page that had nothing to do with the instructions to do with the scooter. So that's the one thing I would change. The product itself is great. The QR code and learning how to use a scooter was a bit more of a challenge. So I recommend you watch a video from a YouTuber or something before you drive, actually start using a scooter, whether that's Segway scooters or other branded scooters. That sometimes can really, really help, rather than sometimes trying to read the instructions, which aren't always all that easy. Now, what else do I know? Well, it has high strength steel in the frame. So the frame is rated to carry pretty heavy people that are bigger than me. I think up to 300 pounds would be fine with the high strength steel. There's a big difference between non-high strength steel and high strength steel. So that's definitely a pro. If you're a bigger person, if you're, a pretty, whether it's muscular or whatever else it might be, this is a really good option. Now, there is a flash charge technology feature with this. It means if you charge for 30 minutes, it will give you 10 kilometers of range at 15 kilometers per hour. So if you're in a hurry for whatever reason, you've used all the range in the scooter, you can flash charge it in 30 minutes to give yourself around probably 8 kilometers in the real world in terms of range. Other than that, I think it's worth sharing with you the battery management system details. The upgraded battery management system, BMS 2.0, now offers 3 new smart functions alongside its existing protections. Easily check how much time is left for a full recharge, scheduled charging sessions during low-cost hours, battery life cycle and battery health monitoring, short circuit protection, overcurrent protection, temperature protection, double protection from overcharging under voltage, auto sleep protection, double protection from over discharging, customizable charging limit, IPX7 water resistant battery pack. So for the people on Reddit, for all these commenters online making comments like, oh, it's too expensive. Okay. These guys usually are idiots. I'm sorry, but they're idiots. They don't even know. Most of these guys have never even heard of a battery management system. They almost never mention when they actually compare scooters. All they look at is how big is the battery does it have? There's a lot more that goes into making a good product than that. So my suggestion is don't even bother with these comments. They're actually incredibly misleading because the key issue here is a battery management system. What is one of the big differences, right? Or at least 5 years ago, the big difference that everyone talked about between a Nissan Leaf and a Tesla Model 3, the battery management system.